This is a mistake I see almost every single student make in that final home stretch. They're often the ones who are working the hardest during their winter break. They're studying 6, 8, even 10 hours a day. But the truth is that that effort, no matter how intense it is, it could be wasted on the wrong strategies. But if you can fix that in just a couple weeks, you can completely change your LSAT score trajectory and get scholarship offers that you probably assume are out of reach. The thing is that when you're taking the LSAT with less than a month remaining, you could be in full panic mode where you're trying to make up for lost time by brute forcing everything, taking test after test, endless hours trapped in review, jumping between question types with no clear plan. And it feels productive, but the reality is that what most students do in the final stretch either burns them out, plateaus their scores, or causes them to leave easy points on the table. And when you are this close to test day, that's not just a small issue. That could be the difference between a 158 and a 165, a 165 and a 170, or a full ride versus taking on $200,000 or more in debt. And a few weeks is both a lot and a little, depending on how you use it. And so I had a student, we'll call her Sarah. 2 weeks before her LSAT, she was stuck at a 162. She was overwhelmed, stressed, and convinced she had waited too long to make real progress. So she did what most test takers do in the final stretch. She took full exams every day, reviewed till midnight, bounced between every type of logical reasoning question, and hoped that raw effort would magically translate into points. She thought that she had a willpower problem, but she actually had a strategy problem. Because grinding is not the same thing as improving. If you put in effort without the proper direction, it's just noise. And so here's what we did for her when she joined our coaching program. We cut 80% of what she was doing. We ID'd the 2 exact friction points holding back her score, and we laser focused only on those. We tightened up her accuracy, we fixed a pattern of logical reasoning misreads, and we drilled smarter rather than faster. And in 10 days, she went from a 162 to a 170. And that 8-point jump didn't just change her confidence, it opened the door to hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships. Not because she worked harder, but because she worked correctly. And that is the final game, that's the entire game, in just a few weeks. Now, the January LSAT is one of the last LSAT dates for this cycle where you can still meaningfully influence scholarship decisions, admissions outcomes, and your place in the cycle. Schools are already shaping their incoming class, but they are still moving money around. And they are still rewarding strong LSAT scores even late in the game. And so if you show up with a great LSAT score from January, you can still radically reshape your cycle. And if January doesn't go the way you want, you've still got February. And for many schools, those scores can still move the needle in a big way. Now, if you've only got a few weeks left, first you want to prioritize high yield areas because not all LSAT questions are created equal. Some are far more common, some are far more predictable, and some provide way more room for improvement. In the final few weeks, your job is to rank question types by frequency, reliability, and speed of improvement. Then you put your energy specifically into those first because that is where the score jumps happen. You also want to cut out the noise because if your study plan involves every single question type, like in other words, like you want to do everything, fix everything, and review everything, that's a waste of time. You want to focus on the high yield areas and you know your patterns. Are you constantly missing necessary assumption, flaw, inference, parallel, whatever the case? You want to double down on the more common question types, specifically necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. If you've only got a few weeks, you don't want to fix or cover the entire LSAT universe. You want to fix the exact leaks that cost you the most points on every single test. Now, you don't want to take a full exam every single day because that is a recipe for burnout. Instead, you want to do 1 or 2 exams a week and then use the other days for shorter, focused drills, like maybe doing 10 logical reasoning questions, 2 reading comp passages, or a couple of drill sets, and with immediate review after the fact. And that review should be targeted, not just reading the explanations. It means that you're breaking down what confused you. It means rewriting the stimulus in your own words, identifying the trap, spotting whatever you misread, and marking the patterns in your mistake journal. That is what fixes the root cause of your mistakes and gets you faster improvements. Now, if you're taking the LSAT in February or April, you've got a little bit more time. You can spend more time on earlier pattern recognition, building a strong foundation, doing more mini drills, and those dates can absolutely change your admissions outcomes, but only if you approach those LSATs intentionally. Now, I'm going to talk through some of the biggest mistakes I see students making with just a few weeks left. The first big mistake is burnout from doing full-length practice tests. The second big mistake is ignoring your strengths. Of course, you should work on your weak areas, but strengthening helps you lock in points that are virtually guaranteed and gives you time to tackle harder questions. The third big mistake is guessing without a strategy. If you are running out of time on a section, if you're guessing randomly, you are leaving points on the table. You want a predictable process of elimination where you can knock out extreme answers, knock out irrelevant answers, and then guess between the remaining choices if you are pressed for time. Now, the final big mistake is giving up too soon. Now, if you've only got a few weeks, you can absolutely still make a big difference in your score. If you can target a weak area or correct a misconception regarding a common question type, there's usually a pretty quick score boost to be had, meaning there is still a lot of low-hanging fruit. But you've got to stop panicking. You've got to stop trying to do everything and stop chasing volume for the sake of volume. Focus on what works, prioritize the highest impact, high yield areas, and review in depth. But you've still got time to improve.